And for further analysis, we are joined from London, Mr. Marcus, international relation expert and specialist in Middle East affairs. Welcome, Mr. Papadopoulos. How can you deal with the truth social when he talked about the death of total civilization tonight in Iran and the regime or a corruption regime, and the death will be ending in 47 after 47 years. He's saying so. If it's how we are dealt with some major terms from Donald Trump as an opening for that, for example, or is it different this time that is going to happen in the coming hours for the end of the period for ending Iranian regime?
Well, if we take Donald Trump's words at face value, he is clearly threatening to commit genocide against the Iranian people. And one can only surmise that if he is serious in his threat, then he will use nuclear weapons to commit genocide against the people of Iran. However, that is taking Trump's words at face value. What I strongly suspect is that his words are born out of desperation, are born out of fear, namely because the American military is in a quagmire, and a very deep quagmire. The American military, along with the Israeli military, has failed to defeat the Iranian government and has failed to defeat the Iranian military. And in the process, the American military bases in the Persian Gulf are virtually destroyed. And as for Israel, much of Israel has been extremely damaged, if not destroyed. The Israeli military has been exposed to the world as being anything but invincible. So Trump is in a most precarious of situations, and I strongly suspect as well that he does not know how to get himself out of this quagmire, partly because he is beholden to the Israelis.
Return back to our guest from London, Mr. Marcus Papadopoulos. Thank you for your patience and thank you for staying with us before to go to the press conference. You were talking about what the U.S. did in the target that was planned and they destroyed from Israel, and Donald Trump's reports that come from fear or from disappointment. However, in parallel with these kind of reports, there are installations that is somehow asymmetric to target bridges and stations, and the first time to be target Qahera Island from the U.S. side. It doesn't mean that negotiations reached a deadline or in the beginning of an escalation.
As I said moments ago, there are a number of ways of interpreting Trump's words. First of all, we can take them at face value. He is threatening to commit genocide against the Iranian people. On the other hand, his words reflect desperation, that America is in a deep quagmire and Trump does not know how to end the war. If he intends to attack civilian infrastructure throughout Iran, then this will be a war crime and a crime against humanity. That said, however, the Americans and the Israelis have already been targeting civilian infrastructure in Iran. So the Americans and the Israelis are therefore already guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. I believe that Trump may increase the bombing of Iran, or his words could be psychological warfare. He could be trying to intimidate the Iranian government into negotiations, into agreeing to a truce. However, He has picked on the wrong country. The Iranian people are an extremely religious and nationalistic people, and they are prepared to fight to the death, literally to the fight to the death, to protect Iran, to defend Iran, to ensure that foreign aggression against Iran is defeated. So Trump, as I said, is in extremely serious trouble.
On the other side, the Revolutionary Guard said directly is the self-restraint is end. What does it mean? What will we witness in the coming hours from your point of view?
Well, America, of course, is a military superpower, and America can unleash a lot more, substantially more, against Iran if it chooses to. However, if that is to happen, then Iran will have no choice but to unleash everything which it has in its military arsenal, not just against America, not just against Israel, but indeed against every single country in West Asia, which is allowing the Americans and the Israelis to use their land and their airspace and their maritime waters for war against Iran. So, are we coming to what could be a potential bloodshed? Yes, that is possible. However, I still believe that Trump's threat, his terrible threat, reflects desperation, and he will not go through with what appears to be a threat to commit genocide against the Iranian people.